Silk painting with only resistor Gutta has one but big advantage, which I will tell you about later. But let's take it one step at a time. Silk for this technique is better suited dyed, dark or medium. That is, you can take a ready-made plain dyed silk or dye it yourself. There was a fairly short video where I showed how to evenly pour silk. Here it's important to keep in mind that the more paint on the surface of the silk, the more evenly it will lie down. And there is another option, to paint the silk with a gradient, but approximately in the same tone, so that there were no sharp differences between dark and light. And now about stretching silk. I've told many times how I do it, but there hasn't been a moment like this yet, so I decided to include it in today's video too. I've been using these rubber band hooks a lot lately, but see, the length of the rubber band isn't long enough to reach the opposite side, so I'm going to secure it to the side. Large pieces of silk can be skewed by this method, but it works great on a small piece. I like tight silk, so I pull the rubber band tight. And I'll be painting with this bronze Gutta. I usually test on the edge of the silk to see how the Gutta flows. In the beginning, right after application, the line has a pronounced volume, but after drying it almost disappears. I mean volume. And the motif for the drawing can be anything. Right now I'm drawing a flower. I very rarely use metallic Gutta, gold, silver, copper, bronze. But for this idea they work just fine. By the way, for this color of silk, a silver Gutta would have been much better, but bronze was just the first to fall into my hands. To make the flower look more interesting, you can add dots, but now you can see that such kind of threads are pulling behind the metal tip. It not always happens, but sometimes. I will later show you how to avoid this. The dips that form on the tip can be removed with a paper towel. And here again these threads are pulling, but if the tube with Gutta is pulled from the silk surface in a strictly vertical direction, these threads falling off fall on the drawn point. If you practice a bit, you can achieve excellent results. And when a drop gathers on the nozzle, point turns out to be larger. In a few moments I will show you another way. It's better to put dots in a meaningful way. I mean, thinking in advance where they are better to be. For example, on the edges on one side of the flower and closer to the center on the other side of the same flower. I'll digress a bit now. The elements of the pattern can be anything. Curls, waves, just lines, dots, anything. A bronze is a little bit lost here. I'll trace it again. And I'm going back to the flower. You can put dots not only on the flower, but also outside it. Somewhere they can be more densely planted, somewhere more sparsely, at a distance. Besides flowers, you can use a geometric pattern, which I consider is best for beginners. Dots can also be drawn in this way. I put the tube down and make very small circular movements and raise it vertically upwards, and the dots turned out more round in outline. Yeah, I almost forgot to tell you about the advantage of this technique. In this technique, you don't have to watch and worry about whether the Gutta will flow or not. You don't have to check the pattern on the back side, looking for missing lines or whether they penetrated all the way through the silk. I think it's a huge relief. To make the silk painting even more interesting, I'm going to add another color of Gutta. And this is leftover dark gray color from a past project that I got by mixing clear and black Gutta. And while it's wet, it appears black, but once it dries, it will lighten considerably. And this tonal contrast between the bronze and the dark gray Gutta will soften. The bronze won't be so lost next to the gray. But this second color of Gutta makes the image a little more complex, interesting, and gives a kind of a second plan. Thank you if you leave your reactions to the video. And if you have any questions or would like to see a video on a topic that interests you, leave notes below in the comments. Here I heard and the drops merged. Still, if the tube is not immediately sideways to the next point, but lifts vertically up, then these threads don't fall on the silk. Or rather, they fall, but to the same point, not away from it. And now I add dark dots to the flower itself. Of course, good colors can be not only one or two, but more. And here I decided to add a drop shadow too. I show you as many possibilities as I can for painting silk with Gutta alone. I hope you learned something new today. Perhaps you have been inspired and have your own ideas to incorporate into this technique. I sincerely wish you the best of luck with your ideas. By the way, when the Gutta dried, it stopped shining and lost its volume.